As a perfectionist, the idea of being flawless eats away at you and dominates your mind space. Everything you do immediately undergoes a rigid self-critique. This critique sets the stage for self-criticism whenever you fail to meet your impractically high, self-imposed standards. Being perfect is highly overrated. Worse, it's a trap that leads to chronic unhappiness. While some people may think that being a perfectionist is a positive trait, it's a quality that can have a long-term, detrimental repercussion on your success. It's a dangerous mix of anti-productive habits and attitudes that discourage progression. Although often misunderstood as having high standards, perfectionism limits the definition of success to an unrealistic standard. I suspect there's a perfectionist in each of us. For some, it hides in the shadows, whispering of incompetence and subtly fueling doubt and shame. In others, it takes a more active role. It impels them to strive for faultlessness in everything they do, producing unnecessary stress and anxiety in the process. The reason why perfectionists are driven to achieve perfectionism stem from fear, anxiety, unhappiness, and/or an unfair conviction regarding how one's worth should be measured. Many perfectionists fear failure. The possibility of failure makes perfectionists miserable. Because perfection is a mirage, this is ultimately a self-defeating behavior. There's no such thing as perfect. It follows that striving to be perfect in all things is a fool's errand. No one can maintain such a rigid standard. That's why perfectionists often struggle with high stress levels, along with persistent feelings of disappointment, guilt, and shame. The first step towards recovery is to recognize the illusionary nature of perfectionism. Once you recognize that perfectionism is an illusion, you will find it easier to muzzle your inner critic. When that voice is silenced, you will see your pursuit of flawlessness for what it truly is, a way to avoid criticism and recrimination from yourself and others. Being perfect requires being in control of all situations, circumstances, and conditions at all times. The problem is, such absolute control is impossible, and it's a false expectation. Most situations impose a degree of uncertainty. This uncertainty has the potential to delay, hamper, or otherwise obstruct the best laid plans. Being perfect also requires avoiding making mistakes. This too is impossible over the long run. Mistakes are an inevitable part of the human condition. Life's about screwing up and learning about our screw-ups. Show me a person who makes zero mistakes, and I'll show you a person who experiences zero personal and professional growth. Most perfectionists try to avoid making mistakes at all costs. Unfortunately, this effort does more harm than good. It hampers growth. After all, the only way to avoid making mistakes is to remain within one's comfort zone. In short, mistakes fuel our growth in skills and knowledge, and in doing so, make life more rewarding. As acclaimed playwright George Bernard Shaw once said, "A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing." Don't be fooled by those who encourage perfectionism. Don't doubt your worth because your efforts fail to meet their approval. It takes great courage to set aside rigid, self-defeating behavior and pursue authenticity. All of us are flawed. All of us make mistakes. Perfection is an illusion. The struggle to achieve it can only lead to disappointment, frustration, and self-criticism. The pursuit of flawlessness is rooted in a desire for acceptance. There's a dark side to this inclination. When you constantly strive to be perfect, you train your brain to accept nothing less. Consequently, your brain avoids taking any action that might lead to mistakes. In many cases, this means avoiding taking any action at all, which is procrastination. The words we say to ourselves are just as powerful as the words we say to others. When we silently berate ourselves for failing to meet impossibly high standards, we do significant damage to our emotional health. Perfectionists wrongly believe that refusing to choose between options with uncertain outcomes is the path that imposes the least risk. In truth, indecision is worse than making a wrong decision. It prevents you from moving forward. It causes you to become stuck in the present via perpetual delay. Indecision also prevents you from learning from your mistakes. Such lessons are a crucial factor in experiencing personal and professional development. The ability to make quick and definitive decisions is empowering. tells your brain that you're able to take calculated risks. Perfectionist behavior places you under constant pressure. It's associated with stress, anxiety, and depression. Perfectionism hampers creativity. Perfectionism and creativity mix like oil and vinegar. It cannot occupy the same space. Perfectionists fear the unpredictable. Creatives embrace it. In the end, tasks are never finished, projects are never started, ideas are never acted upon, and goals are left unrealized. The perfectionist's all-or-nothing mindset prevents them from completing work or discourages him or her from starting it at all. Obsessing about being perfect invariably leads to chronic unhappiness that affects your quality of life. The moment you decide to overcome your perfectionist tendencies is the moment you free yourself to enjoy a more rewarding life. The good news is that you are on the cusp of making a radical, positive transformation. With time, you'll experience the marvelous freedom of being able to make decisions, take action without fear of failure and self-recrimination. You will avoid the disappointment, frustration, shame, and self-recrimination that are par for the course as a perfectionist. Overcoming perfectionism will overall improve the quality of your life.